I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was gonna say welcome to Thursday night stamp therapy, but it's not Thursday night, and tonight we are making some special cards. So hello, welcome to my Nature's Harvest online card class. This is Julie Davison. I gotta I gotta mute my own computer here so I don't hear myself twice. I'm Julie Davison from juliedavison.com. I totally bungled that intro, but I'm so glad that you're here tonight. This is my monthly card class, always here at the end of the month. So it is currently Tuesday, August 31st, 2021, but I think that you'll enjoy these projects whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the replay of this live online card class. I offer these free online card classes every month, so if you haven't participated before, there are several ways that you can participate. You can just watch live and watch the cards that I make and make them along with me, or you can reserve yourself a card kit so that you can stamp along with me, or if you just prefer the PDF tutorials, then you can also get that. So there are two options. This time I'm going to open up a second round for the card kits. So if you didn't get a card kit yet and you would like to, then go ahead and check out tinyurl.com/AUG 2021 SOTM, which stands for Stamp of the Month. If you just want the PDF, that's going to be this one right here. It's $10 for the PDF, $15 plus shipping for the card kit. That includes access to the PDF, and if you want, you can add a color printout for a small fee. So the color printout includes the full supply list, tutorials for each of the cards with measurements and instructions and all the pictures that you need to make the cards. So you are going to love this. Oh, yeah. I need to go grab a card kit because I thought I had what I needed, but I don't. So let's grab one of these. I'm going to show you exactly what comes in the card kit. So this is kind of a do it yourself a little bit kit. So you'll get the front page, which has the link to download the PDF. So I'm not going to show you that because you can't get it unless you get the kit. But you also get these pre-cut card packets. So there's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one for each card. You can see I do pre-emboss and pre-punch out elements, but all of the stamping and die cutting is going to be your job. You're going to need stamps and dies and inks at home to do that. I'm also including in the kit a collection of 6x6 designer paper. This is the the Harvest Meadow. Oh my gosh, look at those beautiful colors. This one features Bumblebee, Calypso Coral, Soft Succulent, Misty Moonlight, and Sahara Sand. So these are the colors that I have focused on in the cards that I designed. We will be cutting from these pieces of designer paper to make the cards, but you'll also have some extra pieces that you'll be able to use either on the envelopes or to make additional cards at home. In addition to the designer paper, you get a 6x6 piece of cork paper, which we're going to use for the cards, some linen thread, and 2 rows of the brushed metallic dots, the little embellishments that are part of that suite. So all these, we're going to make 5 cards featuring the Harvest Meadow. If you get the card kit, you can add on the stamp set and the dies at a discount. So if you don't have it yet, that's a way to go. I'm going to warn you right now, though, if you don't have the Nature's Harvest bundle yet, the Harvest Meadow dies are currently on back order in the United States and are due back in stock on, I think, around September 13th. So you do have to wait just a couple weeks. It should be back in stock pretty quick, I hope. Okay, are you guys ready to stamp? I'm looking at your comments. I'm gonna sit down and stamp today. Usually I stand and stamp, but this is gonna be a long class. We got a lot to do here. Margaret says, I got my Happy Meal today. Yay, it was so beautiful. Oh yes, the great big card swap, Margaret. That's awesome. The cork paper is crazy cool. It's super thin, so it's easy to die cut and punch, but it still has that like look and feel of cork. It's pretty slick. Not slick, you know what I mean. Okay, let's jump right in. I've got all my stamps mounted and I'm going to show you that again later. I showed you the stamp set that we're using. I'm just going to like follow along and work from the PDF. So we're going to go with page 1, which is, ooh, this card. Now in this class today, I will give you the card measurements. I'm not going to include them in the video description because they're all in the PDF. If you want to take notes and write things down, you are more than welcome to. I'm going to share all the measurements that you need. If you're stamping along with me for this card, you're going to need the packet that has the early espresso card base. You're going to need the cork paper and the soft succulent script designer paper. And then we're just going to keep these up here to use for our cards. So I'm going to set those things aside. Let's get out the paper trimmer and we're going to start by doing some cutting. You definitely want to get a good paper trimmer. In fact, I was just thinking maybe I'm going to replace my cutting blade really quick. I've got like something in my paper track. There we go. I like to try to keep it clean so I get a nice good clean cut. Well, we'll see. I'm going to start with my paper cutter. I might need to change out the blade if it's getting really fuzzy. Okay, so the measurements that we need for this card, we're starting with the early espresso card base. This is 5.5 by 8.5, which is half a sheet of cardstock here in the United States. And then we'll want to make sure we stamp on our envelope to match. The inside piece of white is 4 inches by 5.25. And then the other piece of white, this is going to be for die cutting. This is actually thick white cardstock, and I'm going to show you why that's important when we die cut. So this is 2 inches by 5.5, and we're going to use this to die cut the large wildflower. And then I've got 2 pieces here of soft succulent that are 3/4 of an inch by 2.5 inches. And so we're going to use one on the inside and one on the outside. And now we need to cut our cork and designer paper. So for the cork, we're going to start by cutting in half. And you know, I don't know, I'm going to look at my card. Where did it go? On my sample card, I had the, see how there's some lines in the cork? Well, like there's lines going horizontally, but then there's like strips of cork going vertically. So I stamped mine with those strips of cork going vertically. You can go either way. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it, but I'm going to do that same way. So I'm going to put that in with those vertical stripes, and I'm going to cut at 3 inches. So this piece is going to be 3 inches by 4.25. 3 inches by 4.25. I'm just double checking. Me awfully small print over there. Okay, 3 inches by 4.25. This is going to be for the front of the card. And then for this piece, I think we're going to use this. Yeah, let's just cut this down to 2.25 by 1.75 inches. 2.25. You know what? This is 2.25 by like 1 5/8. I'm calling that good enough. And then we'll save that maybe for another card. So I still have a 3x6 piece that I'm going to use for something else. Okay, so those are the 2 pieces. And then the designer paper, the front piece here is 2 inches by 5.5. So I'm gonna cut at 2 inches and then cut that at 5.5. Okay, that's for the front. And then I do have just a little bit here on the inside. This is 1 inch by 5.25. And if you're following along, if you've got the PDF, then you can see those measurements as we go. And I will say the PDF is on Etsy, so it's available for immediate download. So if you're watching this, you can go grab that PDF right now, even while I'm doing this class, and you can have a look at that. So let me just show you that link again. So the PDF is at tinyurl.com/AUG for August 2021 PDF. So that's available right now if you want to go over and grab that. Okay, who's stamping? Is anybody stamping along with me? I know sometimes you guys like to just watch and then watch the replay, so that's totally fine. All right, we are coming along. This card is really cool, and I have to say, I got the idea to stamp on the cork paper from my upline. She created some cards for a big annual training event that we did, Vacation Stamping School, and she created some samples that she shared in her presentation. And on one of the samples, she stamped on the cork paper, and I just thought that was so smart. Like, I don't know why I didn't think of that. We're going to use early espresso to stamp on our cork paper, and the measurement that I gave you, which is 3 inches by 4 1/4, will fit the large wildflowers just perfectly. So we're going to stamp that in early espresso. I tried stamping in Memento, but I just found that maybe it was my pad, that it wasn't dark enough, that the ink was just too fine. So I think the early espresso is just a little bit juicier. You get a nice impression. Now, yours might be lighter or darker depending on your ink pad, but I feel like my original, I guess that's about the same. I was going to say it looked darker to me before, but I think it was just my bad memory. Okay, so I'm also going to stamp that same one on the small piece for the inside, and I really should get my grid paper out. I always prefer the way my desk looks without the grid paper, so that's why I never end up using it on camera. But we are going to tonight so that we can stamp off here. So this is just going to go, obviously we're not going to get the whole image on there, just as much as you can. So that's going to go on the inside. And then while we've got the ink out, let's go ahead and stamp our sentiment. So on this card, I'm using the good luck. Now, if you feel like you don't have a need for a good luck card, you could stamp the other sentiment, which is thank you. That would work really well on this card as well. So those are the pieces that we're stamping. Before we assemble our card, we're going to do some die cutting now. So I mentioned before, this is thick white cardstock, and that's because you really want to make sure you get the details on these dies. So this is the Harvest Meadow dies has several detail wildflower dies, including this coneflower here. And you can kind of see, looking at the die, these like injection points. And when you have just the regular basic white cardstock, it just, it doesn't show up very well. It doesn't, it's not thick enough to really push into the die. So that's why I prefer the thick white cardstock, because it shows up a little bit better and you can kind of see it's not the greatest. You can always highlight that if you'd like with some sponging or coloring. You could even color in it somewhere around here. I have one that I colored. I'm gonna get out my little mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Here's one that I colored. I personally didn't like the way it looked colored, but you can color it if you like that look. You can color it however you'd like. So let's go ahead and die cut with the little mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. It comes with the platforms that you need. So you get the base platform and 2 cutting pads. And then there's also like an embossing plate as well. So if you've been thinking about getting the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine during celebration, this is a great time to get this little machine, because you get a free celebration gift for orders over $50, or for every $50, I should say, that you order during celebration. There's one more month for celebration, so there's lots of time still to take advantage of the free gifts and the awesome deals. Okay. Can you see the detail on there? Is my paper crooked? Okay. Let's put this aside. We don't want to lose our die. We are ready to do some assembling. So I'm going to use the Stampin' Seal adhesive and start layering pieces onto our card. I'm going to start with the inside, and first, the white is going to go down. I really wanted to use Very Vanilla with this stamp set, but the designer paper has a lot of white in it, and so that is why I chose white instead of Very Vanilla. But I think both options would be really pretty with this. So I've got the designer paper here on the right side, and then I'm going to layer the soft succulent. And this was the same size as the sentiment piece, so don't worry about, you know, making sure that you got the right one. Everything on the inside, I want it to be flat so that it doesn't interfere or make the front of my card bumpy, like when it's going through the mail. So I'm just using the regular Stampin' Seal adhesive to put these on. That looks good. That's a little bit more, honestly, than I usually layer in the front, but I like it. I think it's kind of a fun surprise inside. Okay, so then the front of the card, we've got our designer paper. And this is going to go on the left of the card. I'm trying to keep up with your comments, and Beck Whitty says, I can't watch, listen, and stamp at the same time. She says she's tried. I totally understand. I think it's sometimes hard to keep up with somebody else's pace as well. Well, I'm not sure that anyone is stamping with me. So if you're watching the replay and you are stamping, you have the luxury of being able to pause if I'm going too fast and work at your own pace. So I don't want you to feel rushed because stamping is a process to enjoy. So take your time making the cards. If I'm going too fast, then maybe you want to break this video up into more than one sitting and create the cards just one at a time. I'm afraid of smearing this, so I'm going to turn it upside down and kind of give it a back rub to help get that adhesive to bond with the cardstock. Yeah, I like this. I like this layout a lot too. Lynn, does that mean you're stamping along with me? I'll try not to go too fast then, Lynn. I'm putting this wildflower on with regular adhesive. Although I know sometimes people will finish the cards after they get the kit before I even do this video class. So many of you might already have your cards done. You might have already finished. That's the luxury of getting the kits done for you. So the way Stamp of the Month Club works is I feature a different stamp set every month. And if you already have the stamp set, you can get just the card kit if you want, or if you don't have the stamp set, you can use something else at home. It doesn't matter. Okay, now I need to cut some of the twine, and for this card kit there are 1, 2, 3, 4 projects that have twine. So I think that I've got about 40 inches in here, and some of you may have 2 pieces of twine that are much longer than 40 inches, but I had some that was pre-cut. So I'm going to just cut this into 4 pieces. So I'm starting by cutting it in half, and then I'm going to measure the second half in half, and then I'll have the 4 pieces that I need for each of my cards. So for this one, I just did kind of a back and forth sort of loop. And if you want to double up, you can make that back and forth like a little bit smaller and kind of get a little more depth in there. And that's going to go behind the sentiment. And one thing that I like to do when I'm adhering twine like this is to use a little bit of the tear and tape to hold that in place on the cardstock. So I'm going to kind of just fuss with this a little bit. I've got like a really big loop there. I think that looks good. And this is going to go, this is when you need like 5 fingers. Wait, I have 5 fingers. This is when you need like 5 hands. I wanted to say 8 fingers like an octopus, and then it came out the wrong number. Oh my goodness. Oh, hi Nancy. Hi Christina. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Christina just joined as a demonstrator. And Christina, did you see the email that I sent yesterday? So my team members get access to my PDFs like this for the classes. So I sent it out in the monthly email newsletter. If you're a team member and you're watching, look for the email that says Jubilant Stamper Team News, August. And I think actually I sent it Sunday night. So if you're looking at dates, look for Sunday night. And the link is in there, so you don't have to pay for it. You just get it. That's one of the perks of being on my team. We have such an awesome community of demonstrators all around the country. And we have a great community on Facebook where we connect, and I try to provide lots of resources for my long distance team members because it's hard being apart, but we make it work. We've got a team meeting coming up on Saturday, and it's a fun way to keep everybody connected and informed about everything. I'm going to put on this greeting panel with Stampin' Dimensionals, and this is going to go on the left side of the card. I'm realizing that my cork paper is crooked. Oh, let's see if we can tear it up without tearing it. I'm doing it on camera because I'm just trying to get a better, off camera because I was trying to get a better angle. It was just a smidgy crooked and it was bothering me. If you're new to my channel, this is kind of my thing. I'm always tearing up my cards because I changed my mind or it's crooked. So this is normal. I have a very, very gentle technique to separate layers. I'm gonna try to put that back on. And there we go. Now we'll add this on the left side. And one little gem, we're going to use those brushed metallic dots, and there are 3 different colors in this set. There's the copper and the gold, and then brass, I guess. Is that what this would be? I don't know my precious metals very well. I'm going to use the small one, I think, over there on the left side, just to kind of anchor that sentiment. So there's the first card done. This is card number 1. Good luck. Oh, I just love the way that stamping on that cork looks. Okay. Oh, let's make sure that we stamp our envelope to match. I love matching envelopes. So let's stamp this right there in the corner. Oh, I like that. There are lots of ways you can decorate your envelopes. One fun way, and maybe we'll do this, is you can take and emboss your envelope flap with an embossing folder. So let's do that one on the next card. Remind me. Let's set this aside, and I'm going to move in order of the PDF. So our next card is going to be the blue one. Oh my goodness, I love this card. We do need to clean the brown ink off our stamp though. So I'm going to get out the chamois and clean up this stamp. I think last month I did really good not to use more than one color for each stamp, but this time that didn't work out so well. So make sure you clean your stamps in between so that you don't get your inks mixed up. Did someone just walk by? Yeah. Can you grab me a glass of water? Yeah. Thanks, babe. I seem to have some brown ink on my fingers. I also have some red ink or pink ink from something else I was doing earlier. Okay, now we won't have any ink transfer. I think the other thing that transfers ink sometimes is the grid paper. So I'm just going to move that grid paper out of the way for now so that we don't transfer any brown ink onto this project, because this project is all blue, except that the card base is actually white. So in your card packets, you're going to take the next card is the white card. I think I actually put the cards in order in the card kit as they were on the PDF. So hopefully they're in the right order for you. So we're using the white card base, and then you're also going to want this piece of designer paper. It's got the pink on the back, and we're going to use the blue side. And so you've got all the pieces that you need in here. Let's go over measurements, and then we'll get started with stamping and die cutting. You have your envelope, and I'll show you how to emboss with that at the end of the card. Thank you so much, sweetheart. All right. The card base is thick white cardstock. I chose the thick here because for a card base, having something really sturdy is definitely the way to go. And the thick white cardstock is the same thickness. Actually, it might be a little bit thicker than the colored cardstock. So the basic white cardstock regularly is intended to be a layer. So it is thinner. So as a card base, you definitely want to go with the thick. Oh, Kathy, I'm so glad that you are loving this card kit. Did you make up all your cards already, Kathy? Okay, let's get out the paper trimmer because the next piece we're going to need to cut. So we're using the 6x6 designer paper and we're going to cut it down to fit the entire front of the card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. Nope, 5 1/2. 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. That's going to fit the front of the card completely. So I've gone totally edge to edge to edge on the front here. A lot of times we cut with like a little 1/4 inch border, but because we've got the frame, I really wanted to make sure that we went all the way to the edge with this designer paper. So 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm sticking the rest over here to use later. Okay, then we've got a piece of cardstock. This is what we're going to use for the frame. This is regular basic white cardstock, and this is 3 1/2 inches by 4 3/4 inches. 3 1/2 by 4 3/4, and I've embossed it already with the time-worn type 3D embossing folder. This one is part of the suite, part of the Harvest Meadows suite, and it just has a really awesome kind of texture. I don't know how well you can see those words in there, but I just love it. I've used it on several of the cards. Let me show you the supply list so you can get the item number in case you want to add this to your order. Here it is right here, time worn type. So it's 156505. And this is a larger embossing folder, so this is one that you're going to need to use the standard Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine for this. You're going to need the big one, Big Mama as I call her. So I've embossed this already. If you received the card kit, then it's already embossed, but you are going to need to do the cutting. So we're going to get really cozy with our paper trimmer, okay? We're going to cut our own frame. If you don't want to cut the frame, then you could cut a piece of designer paper and put it in the middle, but the frame looks so much cooler. Okay, so your paper trimmer, if you have the Stampin' Up! One, has measurements and markings on the right side as well as the left side. So the cutting line is 0, and then we move out from there. We have a 1/4 inch and then a 1/2 inch. I mean, we've got little marks in between as well. The 1/2 inch is the bigger tick mark, then 3/4 and 1 inch. This frame is going to be cut at the 1/2 inch mark. Can you see it? It's right here. And so I'm measuring my cardstock to that line on this side, on the right side of the cutting track. And now I need to be strategic about using this blade. So let me show you on the blade really quick. There is a line here on the side. That line is where it is cutting. So when you're measuring and lining up on the ruler here, then you're going to line up that line right there with the ruler on the side. Can you see that a little bit better now? So we're going to start cutting at 1/2 inch, and then we're going to go down to 4 1/4 so that we're leaving a 1/2 inch to the end of the cardstock. Okay, let me show you. It's not as hard as it seems. So right there, 1/2 inch. And then we're going to take the paper cutter. I definitely have to stand up so I can see. We're going to take that cutter and we're lining up the side line with the 1/2 inch. We're going to cut down to 4 1/4. Okay, then we're going to pick it up and you can see we've got our cut line, but it doesn't go all the way to the edges. Then we're going to turn it. We're going to go back to a 1/2 inch. We're going to take our paper trimmer blade back to the 1/2 inch and we're going to bring it down. This time, this is 3 1/2 inches. And so we're going to bring this down to 3, which is a 1/2 inch from the bottom. And then again, we're going to turn it and we're going to go at 1/2 inch. We're going to start at 1/2 inch up here and cutting down to 4 1/4 because this is 4 3/4. So cut down to 4 1/4. And the reason it sounds so loud is because this paper has been embossed. So there it's like has this texture it's cutting through. It's not smooth paper. We're almost done. We have only one more side to go. So again, line that up at a 1/2 inch. You're going to line up your cutting blade at 1/2 inch and you're going to cut to 3 inches. And so when you lift that up, you should have a piece that comes out the center. Now, if you have like a little hanging piece like this, if it didn't go all the way through, just use your scissors and just give it a little snip to finish that cut, and it should fall right out. So now you've got your frame. We are not using this piece on this card, but you can save this and use this piece on another card with your stamps at home. Okay, did you guys do it? Oh, I know that's really tricky. And if you've not cut a frame before, it can feel intimidating to use your paper trimmer in that way, but you guys can do it. And now that you've done it, you can do it again and again and again. Okay, let's see what's next. We have our card base, our designer paper, we have our frame, and then these last 3 pieces are for die cutting. The Misty Moonlight cardstock piece is crumb cake, and this is 1 inch by 4 1/4, and that's going to be to die cut the label across the card. Oh no, I just realized I'm missing a gem here. This should have, I'm just going to add one of these. This should have a big one right there. I'm not sure why it fell off my card. Okay. Let's do our stamping and then we'll move to the die cutting machine. On the inside of the card, I did stamp a little bit of that blue flower. I just love the way that looks. You don't have to stamp the whole thing, just the little end, and dress up the inside. So we're gonna put this aside and we'll get our grid paper back out. And we're gonna stamp in Misty Moonlight ink. This is one of the senior ink colors. So I call them junior and senior. The ink colors come around for 2 years. They are introduced and then they stick around for another catalog and then they're retired. So this is the last year for Misty Moonlight. This color will retire in the spring. So I call them junior and senior ink colors. They're juniors when they first come in and then they're seniors when they're on their way out. So this is a senior color, Misty Moonlight. If you like it, now is a good time to stock up on cardstock and re-inkers so that you have plenty of it after the color is gone. Okay, that was the inside of the card. Then we're also going to stamp that again on the smaller weight. This is the one that we're going to die cut. Okay, all of you stamping at home or not, if you're just watching at home, tell me, do you have this bundle? Or maybe you're thinking about getting it and you haven't gotten it yet. Leave a comment, let me know. I would like to know if you have the Nature's Harvest bundle. That's the one that we're using tonight if you're just joining us. This is in the July through December 2021 Stampin' Up! Mini Catalog. So it just started this month on August 3rd, and you've got a while to get it. As I did mention, the dies are on back order right now, but they should be back in stock in just a couple weeks. I've stamped the sentiment in Misty Moonlight ink on the crumb cake. This says, "Sending healing thoughts. May nature's beauty bring peace to your soul." Oh my gosh, I love this. I think this might be my favorite sentiment in this set. I just think it's so perfect to send when you're thinking of someone, especially as a sympathy card. So I hate that I've had several I've needed to send recently. Okay, I think we're ready to die cut. We're going to die cut the flowers and the words and also the detailed blue flower. So let's get rid of our paper again. Let's grab our dies and get those out. So we're going to use this one and then the long label and the outline for the flowers. Okay, we're gonna get the big machine out and try to do this all at once. I also want to show you how to envelope flap. So maybe oh, goodness me. Let's do that really quick. For using the embossing folder and the Stampin' Emboss machine, I'm using the platform number 1 and the embossing plate number 4. I'm going to put the platform down first. I know this is kind of hard to see. Let's see if we can just go up a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now I've misplaced the embossing folder. Embossing folder. Oh, there it is. On my paper trimmer. Okay. So I'm going to just slide the embossing folder in and line up the edge with the score line of the envelope flap. And I'm going to put this in so that the fold is headed in the machine first, and then put the embossing plate over it and just run it right through. So smooth. I realize that my time-worn type is going to be upside down. However, I think that it's hard to see the words anyway, and people will appreciate the texture, maybe, hopefully, without noticing that the words are upside down. So that's just kind of a different way to dress up your envelope. If you don't want to stamp on it, you can emboss the envelope flap. All right, let's do our die cutting now. We are going to come back and use the platform, which is number 1. We're using the thin die adapter, which is plate 2. It's just kind of a really thin one. And then 2 of the cutting pads, which are number 3. And I think we can do all our pieces at the same time. So I'm going to line them all up. Now I don't have a magnetic plate. We currently don't offer one. It had some quality issues, and so Stampin' Up! Discontinued it. And if you feel like you need to secure your dies down, then you can use Post-its or some washi tape or something like that to keep it from sliding. So I might do that, especially on this the label die. I'm going to use the Post-it note to hold it. I'm going to do 2, one on each end, just so that it doesn't have any wiggling. If you feel like you need to, you can also put one on the big flower, but I feel like once I'm able to push down, I can get it to stay put. Joy says, do you already have a video of your camera setup? I would love to see how the magic happens. I don't have a video behind the scenes. That might be a good idea to do a video of like my whole craft room setup. So I will put that on my list to clean up enough to show you how the magic happens. I think somewhere on Facebook I have a picture of my desk, and you can kind of see the lights in the stand. I use an Archon stand to hold my camera. And so just now I was just sort of adjusting it and bringing it up so that you could see a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to get rid of the scraps, just put them down in I have a box underneath my table where I put paper scraps and stuff, and then I recycle. Okay, dies are going to go back in the container so that we don't lose them. We don't want to have any lost dies. And I think we're ready to assemble our card. Okay, I will definitely keep that in mind. Several of you are saying that you would like to see my setup. It's really not fancy. I actually don't have any overhead lights in this room. My stamp studio is at the front of our house. It's kind of like a, I guess it would be like a parlor. And I love it. It's got a front window, so during the day, like I've got some decent light, but then in the evening, I don't have good light at all. And so I've got these kind of studio lights that I got on Amazon that light up okay, although I feel like I struggle a little bit with lighting. So I'm constantly reevaluating and trying to figure out if I can do something different. So I don't know. How does the lighting look in this video? Can you see everything okay? Oh, that's going to drive me crazy. I've got just like a... Let's get the paper trimmer. Like a crooked edge. I probably made it crooked because I was trying to fix it with my scissors. So we'll just give that a trim with the paper trimmer. Make it nice and straight. Oh, good, good, good. I'm glad the lighting is good. Okay, so all of the cards in tonight's videos use the Harvest Meadow designer paper. So 6x6 pieces come in the card kit, my Nature's Harvest card kit. These are the ones we haven't used yet. This is really gorgeous paper. It's a 12 by 12 paper from the mini catalog, and I've cut it down so you get 6x6 pieces in this card kit. I just love the colors. It's really gorgeous. Misty Moonlight is the color we're using. Soft Succulent Bumblebee. Calypso Coral is the pink kind of color. All right, I have a sheet of Stampin' Dimensionals, brand new for this stamping class. So I am going to be very generous with putting dimensionals on the back of my frame. I like to put one in each corner and then also one in the middle to give this frame lots of support. So I'm going to peel off all of those. And then this is going to go in the center of the card front. Now you may not notice, and maybe the person you send the card doesn't notice too, but if you do want to make sure it's right side up, the embossing folder on here does have words on it. So like here I can kind of see the word harvest. So just make sure that your words are right side up when you put your frame down. And again, if it's not, people probably won't notice. They're paying attention to the flowers and not necessarily what's on the frame. Okay, since this is all sticky, I feel very challenged to get this centered. Trying to keep one side lifted as I put the other side down, and I think I did a pretty good job there. It might be closer to this side than that, but I'm not gonna peel that off. Tricky, tricky, tricky with all the dimensionals. Okay, for the detail die cut, oh, I forgot. We want to trim just a little bit off the bottom. So I'm taking, like the middle one has almost an inch taken off, but I just don't want it to stick out from the bottom here. So just trim enough so that it's not going to stick out the bottom. And then we're going to use some of the Tombow liquid adhesive. Multi-purpose liquid glue is what it's called, or green cap glue. And here we go. I am just going to put some dots on it. You don't need a lot. A little goes a long way here. My dots are more just like scribbles. There's not a whole lot on there. So I'm just, it doesn't have to cover every single, you know, bit of it, but I'm going to get strategic places to be glued. And then it's going to go on the right side, leaving a little room for the flowers. So about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch from the right side of the frame. Next up is the flowers, and those are going to go on with Stampin' Dimensionals on the back. So let's use some of those. I'm using the big ones, but you can also use the little ones here, and they might be a little easier to get some of these smaller areas. So I might bring in a couple of those as well. So the large flowers are going to go, I'm kind of tucking the ends right in here on the right side. And I like to overlap the frame a little bit. I just love the way that looks like it's coming out. So I've got that right next to the die cut flowers. And then we have our sentiment. This is going to go across the bottom. And so as you can see, like this part is on top of things that already are on dimensionals. And so is this. So we really only need one dimensional there in the middle, and then we'll use some regular adhesive on the ends. But before we put it on, we're going to add a loop of linen thread. So take one of those pieces that you cut. This is approximately 9 to 10 inches if you're cutting your own linen thread at home. And I've just done like some loops, some circles here of linen thread. And again, we're going to pull out that tear and tape, because this is just a really great way to hold down your linen thread once you have the loopy loop that you want. So I'm going to kind of put it, let's see, I think I do want it a little bit to one side. I've already lost my loops. This technique definitely is not supposed to look perfect, so don't worry if it's not quite right. maybe a little more to hold down the other side. I like the tear and tape for this instead of like regular Scotch tape because it is skinny. So I'm actually not going to take off the tape liner. I'm just going to leave it on there and it's just going to hold it just right for me. These little snippets drive me crazy. Let's just cut those. I think I made them worse. There we go. And then dimensionals, actually just one, right? So let's put that on there. We're gonna have one like right in between where the twine is, and then regular adhesive because it's going to get glued to a part that already has dimension. So this is gonna go right over here. Trying to get that straight. I'd like it to be hanging off the edge about an equal amount. There. To finish off this card, we're going to add some of those brushed metallic dots. So I'm going to do 2. And I know some of you are like, it has to be 3, but sometimes 2 just rounds out the other elements on the card, I think. So I'm going to put 2. However, you have enough on your piece that comes in the kit to do a 3rd one if you'd like to add a 3rd one. I used my last one to replace the 2 over there, but you should have one in your kit at home to put 3 on the card if that's how you like it. Okay, there's card number 2 with the embossed envelope. We are doing so good. Let's move on to our next card. I'm going in order of the PDF, and if you're just joining, I'm going to do another round of card kits to make these cards. So if you really like them and you would like to make them at home, you can reserve a card kit at tinyurl.com/AUG2021 SOTM, and that stands for Stamp of the Month. It's $15 plus postage to get a kit in the US, and then you can also get the PDF if you prefer, and that is tinyurl.com/AUG2021 PDF. The PDF is free for team members, so if you're a team member, check your email. Otherwise, you can get it on Etsy, and it's $10 available for immediate download if you'd like to have the written tutorials, and that's what I keep referencing over here off screen. So I'm giving you all the measurements. Feel free to take notes. But if you want to just have it done for you with the colored pictures, the PDF is there for you. Kathy said she loves this card so much that she made multiples. I love it too. I think this blue card might be my favorite of the whole class. I love the cork paper too. I mean, I really love all the cards, but this one I think just really came together so beautifully. Okay, the next card is one that you may have seen me do a version of. I thought that this was really fun, and I loved the way it turned out, and so I decided to kind of tweak it to make it work with this stamp set. So this is going to be a window card, and the pieces that you need here are Calypso Coral. This is 8.5 by 5.5, and then the cardstock for the inside is 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. I'm sorry, 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I've got 2 pieces for die cutting, Bumblebee and Misty Moonlight. And these are both 2 inches by 4 1/4. That looks like 5 1/2. Yep, 2 inches by 5 1/2. I'm sorry. I was looking at the measurement for the designer paper, which is 2 inches by 4 1/4. So let's get that one out. We're also going to use a little bit of the cork paper, so we're going to cut that as well. Let's grab the paper trimmer and do our cutting. Let's start with the designer paper. This pattern is going to be cut at 2 inches and then 4 1/4 to go across the width of our card. And then we need a piece of the cork paper that is 1/2 inch by 4 1/4. So let's start with the 1/2 inch, and then we're going to cut that at 4 1/4. We'll save this little piece, maybe use it for something later, maybe not, we'll see. Okay, those are the pieces that you need for this card. And then our envelope, we'll stamp that to match as well. Now for this card, I've done the punching for you. If you're at home though, I'm going to show you really quick what I did. I used one of my favorite punches, the Label Me Lovely punch, and I put the punch in all the way from the bottom, and then I lined up the side of the punch with the side of the cardstock. So all the way to the edge here, and that's where I punched. I like this positioning because we have about an even amount of space here on the right and the bottom. And so as we're placing the elements on the left side, we want to have about a similar amount of space between those elements and the window. Yes, I know those dies are on back order, Yvette, but they should be back in stock really soon. I think the date I saw when I looked earlier was September 13th. So it's just a couple weeks. It's not very long. So if you haven't gotten the Harvest Meadow dies yet, then hopefully you'll be able to get them very soon. Okay, we're going to start with our stamping, and this piece is going to go on the inside. You can glue it down, but if you're afraid that you might need to turn it over and try again, then I would just place it centered in the front, and you can do your stamping. And that way, if you mess up, you can always turn it over and stamp the other side. So for this card, we're going to use the sentiment, thank you, and also the small wildflower stamp. And we're using Misty Moonlight for the greeting and Bumblebee for the flowers. So let's grab that. Bumblebee is another one of the senior in colors. So this is part of the Misty Moonlight color family, the 2020 to 2022 in colors. We're going to stamp the greeting first, and we're going to, like I said, just sort of line that cardstock up, and then we're going to stamp that right in the middle. And then once you've got that where you want it to go, then you can open up the card and you can have more room to stamp the flowers. But you might want to open it up so that you don't accidentally stamp the flowers and come, you know, over the window there. So I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to stamp the flowers in the corner, overlapping a little bit, which is fine with the yellow because you can still see it with the blue. And while we've got the stamp out, let's go ahead and add some flowers to our envelope to coordinate. I did a good job stamping, so I'm going to go ahead and glue the white cardstock to the inside of the card. I love that you can see the words from the front and also on the inside. So the design kind of carries over. I'm going to go grab, I made a whole bunch of this same design using different designer paper and stamps. And I want to show you those really quick. This design is so versatile. Here's a bunch of cards that I made using the Sweet Symmetry designer paper and In Symmetry stamp set. Or it's the other way around. In Symmetry paper and Sweet Symmetry. No, I think the DSP is Sweet Symmetry and the stamp set is In Symmetry. But I just thought this was a great design. So this design, card design, is going to work well with different colors, different stamp sets. You really can kind of be creative and have fun with it. In fact, I think, let me see. Here's another version, Trick or Treat. And then I've got one with the, oh, this is so cute. I love the way this one turned out. This one is with that sweet stocking. For this one, I had, instead of stamping on the inside, I stamped on a punch that you could see through the window. But same kind of card layout, some different options there. So lots of different ways, whether you're using these exact same colors and stamp sets at home. Hopefully this idea is still one that you will like and use. All right, let's glue down our designer paper and our cork paper. This is going to go on the left side of the card. I'm leaving a little bit of a border. I always like to leave a little border, but you can go all the way to the edge if you'd like. And using scissors to trim the designer paper that was hanging over the edge. Cork paper is next. I think my adhesive is almost running out. This is going to go, and here's where I was talking about, sorry I was off camera there. I was talking about making sure there is about the same amount of room here as there is here and here. So just evening out that window. And so if that means that you're overlapping the designer paper a little bit, that's fine. Just you want to have some equal spacing there. You can trim if you need to. All right, our last thing on this card is going to be die cutting. We're using the Harvest Meadow dies to die cut the detailed flowers. So we are going to use that tall one again with Misty Moonlight, and then the other one is going to be in Bumblebee. Let's get out our little Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine for this job. I call my little one Lucy. She is my trusty little sidekick. And this size paper is perfect for Lucy to handle. So if you're cutting something that's long and narrow or small, it'll definitely work. You'll just need 2 passes. If we use the big machine, we could get them both in at the same time. But I like the little one. It's not so bulky on my desk. Do you guys have the little mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine? That's my little trick for getting the paper out. I just tossed it on my desk and let it pop out. All right, sending through the next one in Bumblebee. There it is. And we'll tuck those away so we don't lose them. I lost a die once. Do you guys remember that? I was so sad. I lost a little tiny bow tie. It wasn't on my desk while I was stamping. It was another situation, but it was still very sad. I'm going to use some liquid glue to put these down. And whenever I use my liquid glue, I like to either use my silicone craft mat, or sometimes I just get out an old Stampin' Dimensional that the inside is all out of it. That works too in situations like this for the glue. I'm just realizing that I didn't do my fingernails. I didn't paint them for you guys. So, oh, please don't be mad that I have natural fingers. I wash my hands so much, I feel like, during the day that I usually don't paint my nails, but I like to put a clear coat on so they look semi-decent. This is going to go on the left side, so blue one down first, and then it is longer than the card, so you're going to need to trim the bottom off. And the next one is going to be the yellow one. So same thing, a little bit of glue, a little bit goes a long way. It might look like a lot, but my splooches are not very thick, not very heavy, just a little bit. And it's okay for this to overlap the cork, and definitely to overlap the other die cut. So just kind of hold that down a little bit. And then we'll trim that off. Okay, card number 3. We are moving right along. Are you guys ready for the next card? You know what, let's take a break really quick. I want to share with you some swap cards that I received using this stamp set. So many of these were made by other demonstrators using the Nature's Harvest stamp set and the coordinating dies, of course, and the designer paper. So let's take a quick look at some more samples. This first one is one that I made. I shared this in a recent video, and I had already designed the cards for this class, and so I had a piece that was already colored and cut, and I had this die cut piece. So this is very similar to the piece that we have left over from the frame card. So you could probably make a card like this. Bumblebee, soft suede, old olive. I don't know how well you can see there. There we go. I just love the way that turned out. All right, the rest of these were made by other demonstrators. So this one is by Linda Bowen, and she has die cut the cork paper and also a little butterfly with the cork. I thought that was really fun. This looks like it has a little, let's open it up, a little Z fold. So we have that kind of like basic fun fold. I like that. All right, next up, this one is by Tracy Jacobs. I just love this simple design with the 3 panels of designer paper that are 1 inch by 4 inch. And then the circle, just the monochromatic. This is the Misty Moonlight. Oh, I just love it. Such an easy card, such a great layout to case. Here's one totally different than Fall Colors. This one is by Georgia Gregier, and she's used polished pink. Time worn type, can you see that? Let me take it out so you can have a better look. Time worn type embossing folder. So you get some fun texture there. And then I just love these colors. Pale papaya here for the words. This one is by Leanne Graff, and she's using Evening Evergreen and Soft Succulent for this monochromatic card. She stamped the small flowers here in the background, and then we've got the single one here. I love cards like this because I don't love to color, and so this card is nice because it just has, you know, the one color, solid color, which is kind of what we've done so far. We are going to do some coloring, I think, on the next card. Yeah, we are going to color on the next 2 cards actually. So here's one by Mary McCormick, and she's colored her wildflowers here. She's got So Saffron, Mint Macaron, or Soft Succulent maybe, and then Crumb Cake. This card is by Celine Kempton. Here we have just sort of a just a shadow of the flower. So this is the die that die cuts the stamped image, but she just die cut the outline of it. And the last card here is by Denise Jorgensen, and she's got a lot going on here with the die cuts. The branch is the one I did not use, but it does come in this set, and then the cork paper here on the bottom is super fun. Oh my goodness, lots of talking. Okay, now we're back to card making. Are you ready to go? Our next card, let me give you a little peek, is going to be this one. So if you're stamping along at home, your next packet has the green card base. So you want to get that out. We're also going to need some cork paper, and you're going to need this yellow designer paper. So let's find that here. It looks like it's on the back. It is this one. Oh, it's on the back of the green script. So we already cut it for another card. And if you cut it exactly how I've shown, then you'll have almost the perfect piece that you need for this card. So this card piece, the designer paper, is 3 inches by 5.5 inches. So let's go ahead and cut that with our paper trimmer. It's already at 3 inches, and we're going to cut at 5.5. And this is going to cover the card fronts. And then we have just a little bit of cork paper here. So the cork paper, we're going to cut to 3 inch by 1/2 inch. So I think I'm going to have to do the 1/2 inch first, and then the 3 inch piece. So we've got that there. Okay, I think that's all that we need to cut. Let's review the pieces that come in the envelope. We have a soft succulent card base that is 5.5 inches by 8.5. Then we have a piece of basic white cardstock for the inside that's 4 inches by 5.25. Another piece of basic white cardstock. This is going to be for die cutting the flowers. This is 2 3/4 inches by 4.25. And this white piece is 2 inches by 4.25. And this is embossed with the time worn type embossing folder. Okay, easy peasy. Let's start stamping. For this one, we are going to use this crazy stamp. I say crazy because, like, what is it? It's just sort of like this background kind of thing. I really felt a little bit challenged. Here, maybe you can see it a little bit better in the case. I wasn't really sure what to do with this stamp, but I do like what I came up with. So we're going to use the embossed cardstock and Crumb Cake ink, and we're going to stamp right over the embossed cardstock. And I love how, like, the shape It doesn't stamp completely, but it does sort of highlight the area of the embossed folder. So you kind of have this like fun texture. So I did kind of 1, 2, and then 3. And you can't really tell, but I did go like across and then down and then back up. But essentially you just sort of get this design across the cardstock. So we're just adding some color to this textured piece. I wiped my table right before we started and I feel like I've just got glue gobbers everywhere. Okay, so that was with crumb cake. If you don't have crumb cake, you could easily substitute and use a different color for that. Next up, we're going to stamp in black ink. So we do need to clean off our stamp. We had Misty Moonlight ink on it, so we want to clean that off so we can stamp with Memento Black. Memento Black is the color that you want to use if you're stamping with or if you're coloring with Stampin' Blends or alcohol markers. So I'm going to clean this off. We're going to use the black ink, and then we're also going to stamp on the designer paper with the black ink as well. So let's grab that ink pad. What do we have on the inside? Oh, I love that. I've stamped the large ones in yellow and the little ones in green. So we're going to stamp, maybe we'll stamp it in yellow first. And then we'll clean it and stamp in black just in case there's any leftover ink. So let's do the Bumblebee ink. This again is going to be just like a half. Let me get my grid paper out. We're going to just do like the half flower in yellow, and then the small one is in soft succulent. Of course, if you don't have soft succulent, you could do the small one in another color like crumb cake. Okay, that's for the inside. Let's set that aside. We need to clean the yellow off and stamp in black. And then we're going to do some coloring. We don't have a lot of yellow Stampin' Blends. And so for this one, I chose to use the Daffodil Delights. And I think I just got a new set. I'm not sure if this is the new set. Daffodil Delights. It is. Ooh. And then I used crumb cake for the top of the flower. Light and dark. And soft succulent for the stem. Okay, so there's our markers. Let's stamp. Oh, I like that. Should we stamp a little here on our envelope too? I think I'm going to stamp in black and then maybe do a little coloring on the envelope. I don't always color on the envelope, but I think that'll be pretty. Okay, so for the flower, let's start at the top, and we're going to use the light crumb cake marker over the entire top of the flower. I just went right outside the line, just right from the get-go. Oh, this is where the color lifter comes in handy. The color lifter lifts the color. It kind of just like keeps blending in, but it helps when you go outside the lines a little bit. So the color lifter is an option when you are coloring with blends. You can make sure to get that. You can add it to your next order in my online store at juliedavison.com/shop. Okay, then I'm going to go back with the darker color. This is crumb cake. And for this one, I'm going to stay at the bottom, and I'm using the artwork as my guide because it's already darker at the bottom of the stamp. So I know where to put the shading in the darker color. You can go over that some more if you'd like. I think I'm going to stop there. Next up is going to be the flowers. And again, I'm going to start with the same thing. I'm going to start with the lighter color and cover the entire flower, and then I can go back and add some shading with the darker yellow. And sometimes on petals like this that are so small, sometimes I end up coloring almost the entire thing all over with the dark. But I like to try to add some shading, especially like at the top of the flower, like right up here, and make that a little darker. Do you guys like coloring? This is something that I'm coming around to. I've not always been a big fan of coloring, but I do love coloring with the Stampin' Blend. So if you like to color, I would love to know, do you like to color with alcohol markers, or do you prefer to color with watercolors or watercolor pencils? Leave a comment and let me know your coloring preferences as I color in mine. So even though I'm using Stampin' Blends, if you prefer a different method at home, you absolutely could use pencils or markers or anything else to color your flowers. You don't have to use exactly the same supplies when you're creating your cards. Carol says she drops the dice too. That's funny. I'm glad I'm not the only one. And Barbara says, it doesn't seem like the ink is quite dry enough on the cork paper. How long before it's set? I hadn't noticed that. I hadn't noticed a problem, but it might be that you have a juicier ink pad. And so I think you could definitely use like the heat tool to help dry the ink completely. But it should dry. If you have a juicier ink pad, like I said, it just may take a little longer to dry, but I did not notice mine having any problems with it coming off. I don't know. Who else is stamping? Lynn, I think you're stamping. Kathy, did you try stamping on the cork paper yet? Did you guys have any problems with the ink drying? All right, I'm adding some of the darker daffodil, and because this color is so light compared to the bumblebee, I'm like I said, I pretty much just kind of went all the way to the edges again, and you can kind of even go back a little more at the top and add the darker colors. This coloring a lot of times is about layering the colors and getting that depth. Okay, now we have some stems to color. We're going to do this in soft succulent. So again, lighter color first. I like to do the lighter color. I know sometimes when people color with Stampin' Blends, they color the darker one and then they blend with the lighter color, but I like to sort of just get the base color down, and then as you add the darker one, I find that it sort of bleeds and blends with the lighter color if you already have that down. And if you start with the dark color, sometimes it's a little harsher to try to blend. So start with the lighter one, and then the dark color has something to blend into. Soft succulent is maybe not the color that I would have chosen to color the leaves here. In fact, on another card that I made, I used Old Olive, and I do like that better. But I chose soft succulent because it coordinated with the designer paper in this paper set. So if you're making this card at home, of course you'll have the soft succulent card base if you have the kit. So you'll probably want to use soft succulent as well. But if you're just using this design and using your own cardstock, then you may choose a different green. I'm kind of lightly going over the lines here to add a little detail and dark, really, really light touch to add the color here to those stems and leaves. In fact, let me bring back in that one card I did. Here's one where I did use the Old Olive. So here you can see them next to each other. I just find that to be more of a natural kind of a color than the soft succulent. I don't know how you can see it, but either one works. All right, we are done with our coloring. So now it's time to die cut. I'm going to stamp that after I assemble the card, and then I can space it better. So let's go ahead and get we can die cut with Lucy, I think. This is a small enough piece. So Lisa, come back up. Come and visit us. And we'll grab our die out. Again, if you have problems with wiggling, you can use the Post-it notes to kind of hold it down and keep it in place. All right, Kathy and Lynn both say they didn't have any problems, so I'm guessing, Barbara, that it's probably a really juicy ink pad that is causing your ink a little bit to smear if it's not drying right away. Okay, let's get our card assembled. We've got this piece to go on the inside. Really simple stamping. One thing I noticed about this Nature's Harvest stamp set is that the sentiments did not seem to, oh, well, apparently I did not cut this cardstock piece right. If you're stamping at home, yours might be a little long, so you can either trim that or you can just have it go from top to bottom and have a little bit of edge on either side. I think I'm going to do that since I already put adhesive on it. Nobody will know it's supposed to be any other way. All right, designer paper on the front. Make sure that your flowers are going in a natural direction as they grow. Up and down. I ran out of adhesive, so I had to grab my other one. Okay, so flowers, make sure they're right side up. This is gonna go right in the center. We have approximately 3/4 of an inch on either side, I think. Maybe almost an inch. 3/4, I think. And then the embossed piece is going to go across the bottom. Again, here your words have an up and a down, so you can kind of pay attention and make sure that they are right side up. Or not, it's up to you. Oh, a little bit of cork paper in the center. This is just going on with some regular adhesive right in the middle. And then I did kind of put the flowers off to the side a little bit. You could put them in the center if you'd like, but I like them to the side. We're going to use Stampin' Dimensionals on the back. I'll probably switch here to the small ones and add a couple of those. All right, we're coming together. This card is going to be embellished with a piece of linen thread. So this is about 9 to 10 inches, 1/4 of what I sent you in the kit. And we're going to tie a bow and add this to the card with a glue dot. Retying so that my ends can be a little bit longer and even in spacing. That looks good. I'm just going to trim. Oh my gosh, I don't even need to trim them. Look at that, perfect. Oh my gosh, I'm kind of impressed with myself. All right, glue dots to stick this onto the card. Actually, just one glue dot is gonna be good. And I kind of put it right here. I just love linen thread on these cards for fall. All right, I did use 3 gems here. Before I add them, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment so that I don't want something bigger here to interfere with the stamp. So let's add this in black ink. And I highly recommend that you practice on scrap paper before you stamp to make sure that there's no goobers on your stamp, to make sure that you're comfortable stamping straight with your black, because when you're stamping on designer paper, you can't really turn it over, ladies. So practice a couple times on your scrap paper, and then when you feel comfortable, stamp on the designer paper. Perfect. Maybe it's a little over this way, but I'm gonna call it perfect. Oh, for this card, I'm using the gold brushed metallics, and I did add 3 here. So 2 at the top, 1, 2, and then I added a 3rd small one down here on the bottom for our trio. So you can kind of space those out a little bit. There's a little hair. Oh, I'm gonna switch them actually so that yeah, I like the bigger one on the bottom. Okay. There is our finished card with our cute envelope to match. Oh my goodness, I love it. Okay, that was card number 4. We have 1 card left. Here is the finished sample. I love the way this one turned out with the bright colors. So let's get what we need. You've got 1 card packet left, so you shouldn't have any trouble guessing which card it is. This is Misty Moonlight card base. So we've got a cardstock that is 5.5 by 8.5, so regular standard card base there. The inside piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4. At least it should be if I cut it correctly. You have a 2 1/4 inch circle that is embossed with the time-worn type 3D embossing folder. Little piece of Calypso coral so you can die cut the tag. This piece is 1 inch by 2.5 inches. And then a piece to die cut the flower. This white piece is 1.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So these are the ones that we're going to stamp. On the inside of this card, I did do the inside sentiment. So I've got thank you on the front, and the inside says, a reminder to never forget how much you mean to me and so many others. Ooh, another good one. I love that. Let's start by stamping that one right here at the top of the white piece for the inside. Make sure I'm stamping straight. Oh, so good. And then I'm going to stamp those flowers down here. That's what I get for not stamping on my grid paper. And I need to also stamp them on this smaller white to color and die cut. And since we're stamping, I'm going to go ahead and put one on the envelope too. Oh, Julie, use your grid paper. Okay, now let's do some coloring. Actually, while we've got the ink pad out, let's go ahead and stamp our thank you. I don't remember what color we used, so I'm going to just clean it really quick. Oh, it looks like it was Misty Moonlight before. So it's going to be black. And we'll die cut that with the flower. But first, we color. For this card, I used the same colors, the Daffodil Delight and the Soft Succulent, and I added just a touch of the Calypso Coral. Oh, that's Cajun Praise. Just a touch of Calypso Coral on the center of the flower, just to kind of tie in that Calypso Coral. So these flowers are all pretty small. I'm just gonna straight up start with the dark one. And that sounded... the dark one. Oh, I'm gonna just color in these little flowers quick like. I know nothing about flowers. Do you guys know what kind of flowers these are? In fact, maybe yellow is not even the right color. I have a black thumb and a tendency to kill plants, so my husband is the keeper of our house plants and he does a good job. Sometimes it's hard to tell what's leaf and what's flower. I grabbed this color combination right from the designer paper, the Harvest Meadow. I'm usually very inspired by Stampin' Up! Designer paper. And if I'm ever not sure about what colors to put together, even if I'm not using the designer paper, sometimes I'll just look in the catalog at the designer paper and I'm going to use the light, I think. And I'll just look at the color combinations and kind of go from there to build my card. The stem on this flower is pretty thin. So I like this, this bullet point. I feel like I can control the color a little bit better. And even though it seems like a fatter tip than the brush tip, I just find I have a little more control for these smaller areas. Now that I've colored that, I think I might like the darker better. So I'm going to switch over to the dark. Real skinny, real light touches to get this fine detailed flower cut colored. One more. You guys are so quiet tonight. Do you like to watch card making? I don't watch a lot of YouTube videos, and so it fascinates me that people want to watch me. Leave me a comment or a thumbs up if you like watching my videos. Hi, Diana. I'm going back now to add a little bit of yellow to a flower I missed. And then we're going to add just that touch of pink in the center of some of those flowers. Like I said, I don't know if this is the right kind of coloring for these flowers, but that's what we're going with. Just a little touch of color. Okay. We got our flowers colored. This was the envelope, this is the inside, and this is the piece that we're die cutting. And now it is time to die cut. So let's put this aside. We're die cutting these two pieces. Oh, we still have to cut our designer paper. We'll do that after we die cut. Okay, getting out our dies. There's actually 2 cards in this die set. And so we're mixing and matching some of them, but when you get your package, it has, I think, these 3 on one card, and then it has the 2 labels, it has the big outline, and then this branch and the small outline. So we're going to use the small label and the small outline to die cut. And we'll get little Lucy back out for this job. You can do these both at once, even on the small machine. And if you feel like you need to, you can use some Post-its or washi tape to hold your dies in place. Oh, yay! Bobwit1 says, I have the stamp set, but I haven't used it yet. I'm so excited that I've inspired you. I just love this stamp set. I think it's so beautiful. And I really had a lot of fun playing with it. It makes me ready for fall. Okay, let's get our card pieces back out. We've got our envelope, which is cute, and we've got a lot of our pieces, but we need to cut the paper next. So there are 3 strips of designer paper on this card. Let's find them. It's going to be this one, the Calypso Coral with branches. This one, the Bumblebee with the flower pattern. And then the other one is that piece of blue left over from the first card that we made. Oh, maybe it was the second card. I think it was the second card. So here's the card stack that we haven't used on any of our cards. So you can save those for another card, or if you want to get really fancy, you could use them to design or, you know, add to your envelope. So how do I do that really quick? I love this. Adding a little designer paper to your envelope flap really kind of helps it stand out and make it look pretty. So I'm just going to glue that down. I put the adhesive on the envelope flap, and then I'll take the scissors and cut around the flap. So you can do this to all of your envelopes if you want. We showed some different ways. Of course, you can stamp on your envelopes. And if you came in late, we did some embossing on one of our envelope flaps to kind of dress it up. And so another way is to use the designer paper. You could also cut the designer paper and use it as an envelope liner. Like you could cut it down and put it like on the inside of your envelope here. So here is my finished envelope. We got the flap on the back and then the stamp down there. That one's so pretty. Do you guys ever put designer paper on the back of your envelope like this? You'll have some extra if you got the kit, so you can choose to do that if you'd like. Let's get our paper trimmer out. These 3 designer paper pieces are 1.5 inches by, I mean, really like 5.5 inches, but this is 6 inches already in length. So I'm just going to cut at 1.5, and then it's going to be 1.5 by 6, and we'll end up cutting some off the top. So cutting that one down just a little smidgy. 1.5 is the measurement that we need. So you've got more extra designer paper that you can use to create additional cards at home with the harvest meadow and your nature harvest. Okay, so these we want to have a banner tip. My paper trimmer's cutting fuzzy, so I'm just trimming these a little bit. What was I saying? Banner tip. So there's 2 different ways we can do the banner tip. My favorite way to do the banner tip is to use the tailored tag punch. This is one of my favorite punches because there's so many different ways that you can use it. I like to put it in like this, where I'm just putting the strip in halfway and then cutting so you get the banner tip. If you don't have the tailored tag punch at home, here's a little trick for doing it with scissors. You can cut up, like you're just sort of eyeballing it, cut up the center as far or as deep as you want it to go, and then you cut from the corner to the top of that center line. Oh my gosh, my scissors are so messy. Okay, so cutting from the corner to the top of that line. And then you do the same thing on the other side. And this kind of helps you to keep your banner like evenly spaced. So that is a lot deeper than this one. So you, whatever method you do, you want to do them all the same, I think, so that they look pretty even. So I'm going to just come back and use my tailored tag and redo that one so that it's the same kind of width, depth, I guess is the right word. Okay, so you have your 3 banner tips. And then these are going to go on the front of the card. Let's glue this one down inside. Misty Moonlight is the card base color. And then I'm starting with the pink and the bumblebee. And so these are going to go down first, and they're about 1/2 inch from the side and about 1/2 inch from the bottom. And you're going to cut off the extra from the top. So let's go ahead and glue those down first. About 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. And then this one is going to go in the center. And I did come up a little bit on that. So it's centered between the other two and then up just a little higher, right around there. And then we're going to just trim off the extra from the top. Almost done. The circle is going to come up here. I'm using Stampin' Dimensionals to attach this to the card. 1, 2, 3 on the back. And again, this design or this embossing folder has words on it. And so when you're putting this on the card, you just kind of want to be conscious of that so that your words are right side up. And most of it's going to get covered, so if it's not, no one will probably notice. I'm going to use dimensionals again because why not? I love dimensionals. And I'm going to add them to the back of the flower and the flower to the circle. Now, whenever I am adding items over an embossing folder that's textured, I do like to use the dimensionals because I feel like they stick a little bit better. So because the circle is embossed, then that's one of the reasons I chose to use the dimensionals on this part. Gonna add that here. We're almost done. We're going to do our last little bit of linen thread. We're gonna just tie another bow and add that to the card with the glue dot. And then we've got a few more of our brushed metallic dots. I'll trim that so it's even. Glue dot. And I just kind of went right underneath the flower. For this one, I'm using the copper, which really brings out the Calypso coral paper. It ties in so beautifully with that paper. Well, let's see, I'm gonna go with the small one, I think, down here. It feels kind of random, but I'm trying to go with the 3. If you want, you could leave that off and just do 2, but I do like the 3 on this card. So you've got 2 or 3 extra dots left over on your, if you got the card kit, you've got 2 or 3 leftover dots, and then you've got some leftover paper as well that you'll be able to use. Okay, there's our finished card. I love that with the envelope. Let's bring out all the cards so you can see. Leave a comment and tell me which one you like best. Here is the last one we made, and then we did all the coloring at the end, didn't we? Here's the third one right in the middle, our window card. That one was fun. And one of my favorite, here's the one where we embossed the flap. This was the frame card with Misty Moonlight. And then the very first card we made is the one where we stamped on the cork paper. Oh my gosh, I love the way that turned out too. So leave me a comment, let me know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which card was your favorite? If you're interested in getting the card kit, it's not too late. You can still reserve a card kit and I will send an invoice for that in the next 24 hours at tinyurl.com/AUG2021 SOTM. That's going to get you all the pieces to make the cards like I showed you tonight, including the leftover things that you'll have, but you'll be able to make all of these cards. Or if you prefer, you can get just the PDF, which is going to be the color write-up, the instructions, the measurements, the complete supply list, as well as a handful of bonus project ideas from the catalog with the supply list at the end of the PDF. That's going to be at tinyurl.com/AUG2021 PDF, and that is a link to my Etsy store. So that's available for an immediate download. You can get that right now tonight if you like these cards and want to make them at home. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. I am already already excited about my next class. I still haven't picked a stamp set or a bundle to feature in September, so I would really love your input. If there's a bundle from the mini catalog or the annual catalog that you would like to see me feature in one of these monthly online card classes, please leave a comment and let me know. But until then, I'm going to sign off and drink a big glass of water. That was a lot of talking. I'm so glad you joined me tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, if there's any of the items that I showed tonight that you would like to just purchase to have for your stamping collection, including the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, you can do that in my online store at juliedavison.com/shop. It is celebration time, which means you get a free gift for every $50 that you order. What a great time to get all your favorite supplies. All right, until next time, happy stamping, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.